Everyone is staring at the headlines, waiting for a grand declaration of victory or a final white flag in the sand. If you are looking for a clear winner after these 7 weeks of blood and fire, you are playing the wrong game on the wrong board. This is not a war of flags or territory. It is a war of attrition, a surgical removal of global stability without the benefit of anesthesia. We need to talk about the reality that the mainstream media is too terrified or too incompetent to touch. It is a reality built on cold math, exchange ratios, and the slow, agonizing death of a geopolitical order. Listen closely, because the truth is buried under the rubble of Isfahan and the silent currents of the Strait of Hormuz. The world is obsessed with the ceasefire, asking who won and who lost as if this were a football match. That is the first trap of the naive mind, the belief that a pause in kinetic action equals a resolution of the underlying rot. So what we are actually witnessing is a hostile takeover of the global energy architecture disguised as a regional skirmish between a superpower and a defiant regime. Consider the opening act of this tragedy. The first 50 days, where the sky over Tehran was filled with the most expensive hardware in human history, the United States and Israel launched a masterclass in precision strikes, dismantling command nodes and turning industrial complexes into scrap metal. On paper, it looked like a total collapse, a modern military crushing, a relic of the late 20th century. But instead of folding, Tehran did something that the planners in Washington always fail to account for in their simulations. They shifted to an asymmetric counteroffensive that turned the entire region into a maze of invisible threats and economic bottlenecks. They did not try to win a dogfight. They tried to stop the heart of the global economy. The blockade of the Strait of Hormuz was not just a naval maneuver, it was a dagger held to the throat of every central bank on the planet. When you choke that narrow passage, you are not just stopping oil tankers, you are triggering a cascade of insurance hikes, supply chain failures, and inflationary shocks. It is a move that proves one thing: you do not need to be stronger than your enemy if you can make their life too expensive to live. Look at the exchange ratio, the most brutal metric in the history of warfare. Let us do the math that keeps the accountants at the Pentagon awake at night. You have a $100 million fighter jet, the pinnacle of 30 years of research and development, being threatened by a drone that costs $20,000. To shoot down that $20,000 piece of industrial trash, you have to fire a $2 million interceptor missile. That is not a defense strategy. That is a recipe for national bankruptcy. You cannot win a war when you are spending $2 million to destroy $20,000 over and over again. This is how empires bleed out, not from a single mortal wound, but from 1,000 tiny cuts to the treasury. Iran is not trying to outshoot the West. They are simply outlasting the Western taxpayers' patience and the Western military's inventory. And when the interceptor stockpile runs dry, the umbrella of protection vanishes, and the reality of the New World Order sets in. The American president can stand at a podium and talk about destroying the Iranian military, but those are just words designed for the evening news. The reality is that there is no clear exit strategy, no plan for the day after the last bomb falls. We are stuck in a strategic limbo, a halfway house between a total war we cannot afford and a peace we cannot trust. In the logic of the old world, survival was not enough to be called a victory, but in the current matrix, for a regime that was already on the brink of collapse, simply standing after 50 days of hell is a strategic triumph. It gives them the leverage to walk into a room and demand a seat at the table of the great powers. Tehran is playing a game of patience, a game they have perfected over thousands of years of history. They are waiting for the internal pressure in Washington to reach a boiling point, especially with the midterm elections looming. like a dark cloud. They know that a democracy cannot sustain a high-cost, low-result war forever. The 10-point plan offered by Iran is a masterpiece of strategic manipulation. Some of the demands are absurd, like the total withdrawal of American forces from the Middle East. But that is just the opening bid. They are setting the stage to trade their survival for the lifting of sanctions that have strangled their economy for decades. For 40 years, the rial has been in a death spiral, and the Iranian people have been cut off from the global financial system. But this war has given the regime a new piece of leverage, a way to turn their weakness into a bargaining chip. If they can trade a controlled nuclear concession for a return to the oil markets, they have won the long game. The nuclear issue is the ghost in the machine, the variable that no one can truly control. It was the reason for the war, and it will be the only thing that can end it. The uranium is still there, buried 1,000 feet underground in bunkers that even the most powerful bunker busters cannot reach. You can destroy the centrifuges, you can kill the scientists, but you cannot kill the knowledge. The recipe is already written in blood, and as long as that uranium exists, Iran holds the ultimate insurance policy. It is a sword of Damocles hanging over the head of every diplomat in the room. Let us look at the naval theater, where the Iranian Navy was supposedly neutralized in the first few weeks. The big ships, the frigates, the minesweepers, they are all at the bottom of the sea or burning in port. But if you think that means the sea is safe, you are dangerously mistaken. Iran has never relied on a traditional blue water navy. They rely on a swarm of 1,000 small, fast, and lethal boats. These speedboats are the mosquitoes of the maritime world, difficult to track and impossible to ignore. They can hide in the coves, they can lay mines in the dark, and they can turn a multi-billion-dollar carrier strike group into a giant, useless target. This is the reality of A2AD, anti-access and area denial, being practiced by a master of the craft. It does not matter if you have the most advanced radar in the world, if there are 16 black shadows moving under the water that you cannot see. The threat is not gone. It has just changed its shape. And what about the Allies? Look at the silence from London, Paris, and Berlin. When Washington asked for help clearing the mines in the Strait of Hormuz, the response was a collective shrug. They are tired of fighting wars for a security architecture that no longer serves their economic interests. The Europeans know that their future is tied to the energy markets of the East, not the fading promises of the West. When the petrodollar begins to wobble, loyalty follows the money. So we are seeing the birth of a new coalition, one that is more interested in the petro-yuan than the aging greenback. Israel, for its part, is fighting a different war entirely. For Prime Minister Netanyahu, this is not about economics. It is about the survival of the Jewish state. He has declared that Iran is no longer an existential threat, but a dangerous rival that is a subtle but massive shift in rhetoric. The Israeli military has achieved incredible tactical successes, destroying 80% of Iran's air defenses and decapitating the leadership. They killed Ali Khamenei in the early stages, a move that sent shockwaves through the entire Islamic world. They followed it up by taking out Ali Larijani, the man who was supposed to bridge the gap between war and diplomacy. These were masterstrokes of intelligence and execution, the kind of things they make movies about, but tactical brilliance does not always translate into strategic victory. You can kill the leaders, but if you do not replace the system, you are just waiting for the next generation of radicals to take their place. The Mossad and the CIA were hoping for a popular uprising, a revolution from within that would do their work for them. They waited for the streets of Tehran to fill with protesters, for the regime to crumble under its own weight, but the streets remained quiet, or at least quiet enough for the security forces to maintain control. The mistake the West always makes is assuming that a population under fire will turn on its leaders. Often, the opposite happens. The people huddle together under the flag, driven by a primal need for survival against a foreign invader. The internal instability that was supposed to end the war has instead become a tool for the regime to consolidate its power. Now, we are looking at a multi-front conflict that has swallowed Lebanon. And the Red Sea, Hezbollah is not just a proxy. It is the most heavily armed non-state actor in history. As long as Hezbollah exists on the border, Israel can never truly claim victory. The ceasefire of April 8th was supposed to bring a pause, but the shadow war continues. Israel launched Operation Eternal Shadow, hitting over 100 targets in Lebanon in a matter of hours. This is not peace, it is just a change in the frequency of the violence. The goal of the Israeli government is clear. They want a total regime change in Tehran and the complete neutralization of Hezbollah. Those are two of the most difficult tasks in modern geopolitics. To achieve them would require a level of commitment and resources that the world is no longer willing to provide. We are watching the end of the Pax Americana in real time, a slow-motion collapse of the idea that one nation can police the entire world, while the United States burns through its treasury in the deserts of the Middle East. China is sitting back and taking notes. They are signing oil deals in yuan, building ports, and positioning themselves as the new broker of peace. The most important negotiations of the next 5 years will not happen in Washington. They will happen in Beijing. This is the shift of the chessboard, the move from a unipolar world to a multipolar trainer of competing interests. The old rules are dead, and the new ones are being written in the blood of this conflict. So when you see the next headline about a diplomatic breakthrough or a military milestone, remember the math. Remember the $20,000 drone and the $2 million missile. Remember the 16 shadows under the sea and the uranium buried deep in the rock. The war is not over because the bombs have stopped falling. For a few days, it is just entering a new phase, a phase of economic strangulation and political maneuvering. We are all living in the shadow of this conflict, whether we realize it or not. The price of gasoline at your local station, the value of the currency in your wallet, the stability of the world your children will inherit, all of it is being decided right now in the halls of power and the trenches of the Middle East. It is a game of high stakes and low morals, where the only rule is survival. Don't be naive enough to think that there is a hero in this story. There are only players, and most of them are playing with your money and your future. The geopolitical surgeon has finished the first incision, but the operation is far from over. The truth is that the world we knew is gone, replaced by a reality where the strong are not always powerful and the weak are not always defeated. It is a world of asymmetric threats and cold, hard pragmatism. It is a world where the only thing that matters is who is left standing when the dust finally settles. We are witnessing the birth of a new era, one that will be defined by the scarcity of resources and the abundance of conflict. It is a sobering thought, but one that we must face with clear eyes and a steady hand. The chess pieces are moving, and the game is only getting more complex. Keep your eyes on the Strait of Hormuz, the bottleneck of the world. As long as those waters are contested, the global economy is on life support. The heartbeat of the world is tied to a few miles of water. And the whims of a few men in Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Washington, the 16 shadows are still there, waiting in the deep. They are a reminder that the most dangerous threats are the ones you cannot see. And in this new world, what you don't know can definitely kill you. History is a cold mistress, and she has no mercy for those who fail to learn her lessons. The lessons of this conflict are written in the debt of empires and the silence of the fallen, It is a story that is still being written, one paragraph at a time. As we look toward the future, we must ask ourselves what kind of world we are willing to accept. A world of constant conflict and economic instability, or a world where we finally realize that the cost of war is always higher than the price of peace? The answer is not as simple as it seems. For now, the guns are quiet, but the tension is higher than ever. The ceasefire is a fragile thing, a thin layer of ice over a boiling ocean. One wrong move, one misunderstood signal, and the whole world could be plunged back into the abyss. We are living in a time of great peril and great opportunity. The old structures are falling, and new ones are being built in their place. It is a time for pragmatism, for clear thinking, and for a refusal to be led by the nose by those who profit from the chaos. The geopolitical surgeon will continue to watch, to analyze, and to speak the truths that others are too afraid to utter. The truth is a sharp instrument, but it is the only thing that can cut through the lies and the propaganda. Stay alert, stay skeptical, and never stop looking for the 16 shadows under the surface. The game continues, and the stakes could not be higher. We are all on the board now, whether we like it or not. The only question is whether we will be the players or the pawns in the grand design of the new century. The sun is setting on the old order, and the shadows are growing long. It is a time for reflection and for action. The world is changing, and we must change with it, if we hope to survive the coming storm. Listen to the silence of the desert and the roar of the sea. They are telling a story of power, of greed, and of the enduring spirit of those who refuse to be broken. It is a story that belongs to all of us, and one that we will be telling for many years to come. The 16 shadows are still there. They are always there, and the world is waiting to see what they will do next. The operation is ongoing, and the patient is still on the table. Only time will tell if the cure is worse than the disease. The reality of the Middle East is a mirror held up to the rest of the world. It shows us our fears, our ambitions, and our ultimate fragility. It is a mirror we cannot afford to look away from, no matter how much we might want to. As the 7 weeks turn into months, and the months turn into years, the lessons of this conflict will become clearer. We will see who had the vision to lead and who had the arrogance to fail. We will see the true cost of the decisions made in the heat of the moment. For now, we watch. And we wait, we analyze the data, we track the movements, and we prepare for the next move on the chessboard. The game is far from over, and the outcome is anything but certain. The geopolitical surgeon is signing off for now, but the work continues. There are more incisions to be made, more truths to be revealed. Stay sharp, stay informed, and always remember the math of the new world. The 16 shadows are moving. Can you see them yet? If you can't, you're not looking hard enough. The world is changing right in front of your eyes, and the only way to survive is to see it for what it truly is. And the petrodollar is fading, the petro-yuan is rising, and the balance of power is shifting to the east. This is the reality of our time. The central theme of the 21st century, don't let the headlines distract you from the grand architecture of the new age. The war in Iran was just a symptom of a much larger illness. The cure will require more than just a ceasefire.